So growing up, my parents never really played Disney movies for us. Oftentimes when we were like crowding around as a family, they would play Nigerian movies. And not the Nigerian movies of now on Netflix about big weddings or huge drama. It was particularly Igbo movies, those ones in the cassette, that oftentimes depicted everyday society and life, especially in the East, and then introduced some sort of villain. If you guys remember Patience Ozokwa, it could be anything, right? It could be a woman getting married and her mother-in-law hates her. It could be a newly orphaned child that's going into a new home and her stepmother hates her. There was always some kind of villain in the stories. Something that was consistent in the messaging of these movies was that God will always prevail. At the end, the evil woman would be exposed, be hit with jazz and die. Or somebody would come and save the damsel in distress, marry her, and live happily ever after. There was always this sort of messaging that God will intervene in the end. Conversely, however, when I was growing up, I noticed that a lot of my friends were watching Disney movies. So by the time I got to high school, I hadn't really ever sat down to watch like a full Disney movie, like Cinderella or one of those types of movies. But I noticed growing up that people around me that did watch those movies, they'd be able to recite the score by memory. Like I remember sitting down at the lunch table when I was young and all of my friends start singing the soundtrack to like Mulan or something or Cinderella. And I'm like, oh, what are you guys talking about? Like, you don't know? This is like the Mulan soundtrack. Don't you remember like Princess Jafar or whatever? I was just like, no, because I did not have that experience of like using like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty or Snow White as like my comfort movie. Instead, I'm watching these movies that at the end it says glory be to God and like the villain has now died. In getting a little bit older, I noticed that those Disney movie references and inferences started to actually make up what we now call like the male gaze or centering men. Again, every girl wanted to be like Cinderella, you wanted your Prince Charming, you wanted this or that. Because I wasn't coded with that at a young age, I remember being an observer of this behavior rather than like a participant. And some of the ways that this manifested was like, for instance, I remember being in school. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and some girls legitimately had relationship problems at 15, like huge relationship problems. They're coming to school, they're already stressed out, they're talking about it with their friends. And I just remember observing this and thinking, why do you have boy problems? We don't even see boys for the majority of our school day, because obviously when you're that age, school is like the majority of your social life. I remember thinking that like, damn, why are you like letting this person stress you out at whatever school he's in somewhere? You're not taking on all those feelings, letting it affect your education. These were things that I was actually observing and seeing at 15, 16. And if you ask me, I do think that it's linked to the indoctrination of young kids through Disney movies to constantly be seeking, trying, striving for a romantic relationship, even from an early age. I'm here watching movies of how not to pick the money up from the floor and how not to be morally corrupt before God comes to enact his revenge on you at the end of the day, while girls and boys my same age are watching these stories of love and needing to find your Prince Charming from early. So if you ask me, I definitely believe that I benefited from not getting indoctrinated with those movies at such a young early age, pipelining into me not centering men in my life and every one of my decisions. So if you ask me, will I be playing Disney movies for my kids? No. I'd rather them learn a moral lesson than learn how to fall in love at 5. You have all the time in the world for that.